Hi, welcome to the first episode of books I've read recently. I've been looking around YouTube quite a lot and there doesn't seem to be anything about books. There's stuff like, games I bought recently, games I played recently, all that, but there's never anything about books. I think the closest one I found was books I read during my break, and it didn't sound that, great, so I'm sure this is pretty much unique. And this is the first proper recording I've done other than the Guitar Hero Aerosmith video, and I think it's going to be good. Yeah. So, but please bear in mind that I'm only 13, so most of the books that I'm going to be reading will be like slightly more kid oriented. Stuff that adults could read as well, like, Harry Potter, His Dark Materials, Lord of the Rings, all that sort of stuff. But I'm gonna just jump in. But don't quit the video. Don't leave just because of this next book. If you really can't stand it, skip ahead to the next one, please. But the first book I have here is it's New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. But I know a lot of you have heard of it. Most people who are watching this video, I guarantee at least 99% of you, are going to have read it or seen it already. I thought you'd like to hear my impressions. I read the first one. It was a lot better than this, to be fair. I just didn't like the way that Edward went off, and then she was trying to kill herself just to hear his voice. It's the whole point of the book, but it sucked. I didn't like the way Jacob was all clinging on to her, and he called her Bells like he owns her. Come here, Bells, good girl, come here, it's a good little doggy's girl. The fight between the werewolves were the only really good bits, until the Cullens came back at the end and they went off to the Volturi and all that crap. But that was the only really good part, because they were tearing each other up, and I don't like them. So I think I'm going to give this book an 8 out of 10, because I'm very generous with my reviews and all that stuff. So I think it was pretty good, but a lot of the plot threads seem to be hinting at a lot more violence in the next one, which should hopefully be better, and all the namby-pamby, oh, I want to hear Edward's voice again stuff. So, yeah. Okay, so the next book I have here is Ranger's Apprentice, The Ruins of Golan by John Flanagan. It was a really good book. It was very addictive and stuff. A lot of the reviews on the back are all stuff like, it was awesome. I couldn't get my eyes off the pages. It was too interesting to stop reading, and all that stuff. I completely agree with it all. It was really good. Except for one part. One part of the book just completely let it down. It starts off, the main character, Will. He's an orphan at this castle, and he wants to become a warrior because he doesn't know who his parents were, but they left him a note in a little basket where he was, and it said that his father was a brave war hero, so he wants to become a warrior like him. And then it's all about this stuff, and then he gets chosen to be the Ranger's Apprentice, hence the name of the book, The Ranger's Apprentice. And it's all well and good, and it shows how he becomes more like a ranger. He becomes adept at using a bow and arrow and throwing knives, and he can sneak through the shadows unseen, and all this sort of crazy crap that rangers do. But then the one thing that let it down after all the maturing of his character and stuff was the final battle. The fact that there's like an evil bad guy who lives up in the mountains and he's all scary and stuff, and then the main bad guy, the bad guys at the end of this were like big bear monkeys. It just sort of sucked a bit. It was a big letdown when the rest of the book was so good, and then it all boiled up to a battle against the Calcara, who were King Kong with tusks instead of a big, massive, proper fantasy fight thing. So that's the only thing that really let it down. So I think I'm going to give this book around a 9.3, because I liked it, but the end let it down. It would have scored a lot higher. And so the third and final book I have here for the end of this first episode of books I read recently is quite an interesting book. It's Scared to Death by Alan Gibbons. I don't know if many of you have heard it, but it's very cool. One thing I really love about it is the size. It's just so dinky. I mean, look, here's New Moon, and here's this book. Look how short it is. It's just very cool. And I think the book itself, like the story, is really interesting, because it's like a combination between like information, like it's educational, but it's like a dark murder, mystery, horror, thriller, fantasy thing. Basically starts out this boy Paul. His brother's been dead since he was 7, but it was an accident, and his family has this thing running in their blood called the demon seed. And it skips like a few generations every time, so you never know when it's gonna come. But what it does is it lies dormant inside of the rector males, because that's his last name, and until they're around 13, and then they start suffering from these attacks, and they get all this nausea and dizziness, and then it gets worse and worse and worse until they're around 15 or 16. And then it really starts to break out, and it becomes more like pain. And then it drives them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And then the bogeyman, the terror man, whatever you want to call him, comes for them. And he sort of employs them to kill for him, to become his personal assassins. And it's very cool. Then I don't know how much to say, because I don't want to spoil it, but it's all based around Jack the Ripper. There's someone like reenacting his kills at exactly the same places, and things like that. But the depth that's gone into this book, like all the street lamps that you would actually see on those streets in East London are all in here. It's all very detailed. So I think I'm going to give this a 9.7 out of 10, because I don't think anything's ever perfect. They always tell you that nothing's ever perfect, so how can you get a 10 out of 10, because that's obviously a perfect score. So you'll very rarely, if ever, see me give out a 10. So this is a 9.7. Which concludes my very first episode of books I bought recently. I think I'm going to have to cut here because we're running very swiftly out of time. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come back, watch any more videos after this if you did.